Hello, this second presentation aims to significantly impact your effectiveness in everyday actions by setting you off towards cultivating a discerning eye for the motley MicroVita cohorts in and around us, as differentiated in the first presentation. Now, spying for MicroVita in action is like a fish trying to look out for water. If it makes all animated life, then where it isn't, interwoven into every fabric of our very existence, body, mind and soul. If all MicroVita are stripped away from our being, then we'll be left as just an expressionless unit consciousness. So we'll start by clarifying some less understood though common phenomena and entities from the MicroVita point of view. Then we'll move on to something even more interesting. The first one concerns a frequent experience whereby two different batches of any given generic medicine made by different manufacturers sometimes consistently produce slightly different results even when taken by the same person under equivalent conditions. Now, this variance in their efficacy could be due to many reasons like different psychological state of the person, manufacturing process, etc. But over a period of time, some regular pill poppers have noticed a clear difference in the efficaciousness of different brands, leading them to prefer one over the other. This is a classic case of their MicroVita compositions being different even though they have exactly the same chemical formula. This second example explains the slightly different outcomes, qualitative and or quantitative, in two or more sets of chemical reactions involving the same pure sets of chemical elements or compounds if they were sourced from different mines. All mines have their own separate history, having been subjected to markedly different forces of nature over their lifetime, leading them to produce different relative compositions of type 2 and type 3 particles as delineated in the first presentation. Yes, we are claiming that different atoms of the same element can have different MicroVita concentrations, just like they are already known to have different number of neutrons or isotopes. Our third example is the carbon atom itself. What is so special about it that makes it the basis of all organic life? A carbon atom is supposedly made up of only subquantum MicroVita particles. Why are water and oxygen essential for life? Because hydrogen and oxygen atoms carry one of the highest concentrations of MicroVita as compared to most other elements. Of course, their chemical properties also play a part. Let's now look at some organic molecules. Do you know how many biochemical reactions take place inside each and every cell of our body every minute? As per biochemists, the number is of the order of 100,000 every second. And they are all perfectly synchronized with each other in terms of their relative timing and sequence in spite of their complex interdependencies. Now, from where do you think the intelligence to organize and operate these zillions of reactions involving trillions of molecules in the billions of cells that make our body comes from? Is there a separate entity outside of us that's coordinating all of these for us? Wouldn't it be some kind of micro-intelligence resident within the molecules themselves which is actively driving them? Next up, let's consider a typical bacteria. It is supposed to be an ideal example of an independent biological unit of life. But if you compare it with a mitochondrion, which is virtually the powerhouse of an animal cell, or a chloroplast responsible for photosynthesis in plants, we'll see some very interesting similarities as listed on this slide. Don't they all represent different stages of evolution of some real ultimate physical units of life? the smallest physical microvita particles, as we'll actually see at the end of this presentation. If we take a closer look at one of the most notorious of biological entities, the multifarious virus, we'll find that it is more than just a shell with some nucleic acids and enzymes thrown in. For example, when it infects a protoplasmic cell, how does it hijack some of the cellular resources of the host and uses them to multiply itself? Upon entering your cell, it uncoats itself spontaneously, and then its DNA or RNA have enough intelligence to seek out the nucleus of your cell and attach themselves at the end of your cell's DNA. At that very moment, the virus does not even exist as a separate individual entity because it has already dissociated itself totally, at least the way contemporary biologists understand it. What kind of life form is that? And then its enzymes have their own intelligence to kick off the replication process. Thereafter, the complex reconstruction process of a new virus particle is kicked off by directing a bunch of helper proteins, and then with their help, all the different parts of the viral structure like the capsid, etc. are separately built and then skillfully assembled together. Finally, the viral chromosomes are efficiently packed inside the newly constructed shell. The whole process may be over in just 15 minutes. Isn't this an example of some kind of reasonably evolved micro-intelligence orchestrating this entire show? Does it now make sense to say that the virus or a viroid, etc. are just external garments of some germinal microvita? Currently, prions are the smallest known infective particles. They don't even have any genes because they are just simple proteins, but still they can induce the normal proteins of other healthy cells to become pathogenic like them. How can this be? The only satisfactory explanation we'll ever find would be that the healthy proteins got hijacked by the pathogenic microvita, thus becoming infectious prions themselves. By the way, latest research indicates that prions may well be the agents behind type 2 diabetes and many neurodegenerative diseases like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, motor neuron disorder, etc. Another totally avoidable situation of harmful microvita gangs on a rampage. Time for some metaphysics now. Existence of aura is a widely acknowledged fact, even though the instruments that claim to sense and measure it will continue to improve. This cloud of subtle matter surrounding and interpenetrating our entire physical body must be there for a reason, I guess. Many of us know that different grades of such particles actually make up our mind and the rest of our non-physical but material existence. The principle of energy-matter equivalence states that all energy can be modeled as some kind of quanta. Can that be applied to our so-called mental and emotional energies as well? It is these quantums of microvitum that make up specific ideas and emotions. For example, there are only about 50 psychological propensities like hope, anger, love, etc. that ever show up in any of us.